Our last reacts for the night. But again, if you guys want me to react to anything else, whether any of the games that we play, anything, you name it, it's a YouTube video or any type of video I can watch online, I will react to it. Just go ahead and give me the link in Discord, in social media, in my comments on video. Any way you can give me the link, I will add it to my watch later list or my reacts list. But today we got the best boss fights in Wrath of Lich King Classic. Top 3 boss fights. Fuzad is not up there, actually. The boss fight itself is bullshit. Lich King, for sure. To be honest, I would put the boat. I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Take a good hard look at the motherfucking boat, yeah. The PvP fight
Raiding
in
has
TOC.
always been one of my personal favourite things to do in World of Warcraft, and now that Wrath of the Lich King is finally out, we're going to be encountering some of the most well-remembered encounters.
I'll give it a rating from 1 to 10.
Welcome all, my name is
when
Wotlk.
they add one.
Today we're checking out the best boss fights from every tier of Wrath Classic.
Do not put a fucking fight in Ulduar in here, otherwise I'll slap your face.
Let's get straight into it. First of all, compared to Wrath back in 2008, creatures as well as bosses in Next Remus have had their health and damage boosted up by about 30% to allow for some more interesting interactions between players and bosses in the earlier weeks of the tier being available.
I'm trying to think.
Honorable mentions.
I was going to say patchwork, but you ain't.
Those buffed up
It was easy.
Are going to be the cause of many a wipe in the first few weeks, I can tell you that. Second is to Sapphiron, who drops one of the very few remnants of an attunement left in Wrath. The key to the focusing iris will be needed to begin the Malagos encounter over.
I think Malagos has to be up there because it's one of those like first of its kind type of fights. You're on a fucking Drake, bro.
In the Eye of Eternity in Caldera. Only one person in the raid will need it though, so it's not going to be too tough to get. In tier 7 you'll also face off against the likes of Kel'Thuzad for a second time perhaps. Malagos, of course, and Sartharion as the end of tier bosses. I think the last one has the most potential to be interesting though, as I would say Sartharion is the big challenge of tier 7. Found under Wormrest Temple, Sartharion's lair features a dynamic level of difficulty. Now you can deal with the 3 drakes surrounding the central boss in advance, which is going to make the encounter considerably easier, but if you take on Sartharion leaving the drakes alive, he will gradually call them down to join the battle, adding their own mechanics into the fight.
That's the fun part.
Increasing damage taken from other mechanics significantly, hatching eggs which spawn whelplings, or enraging the boss. New to Wrath Classic is a further health buff added through choosing to fight Sartharion alongside his drakes, making strategies to zerg him down as soon as possible much less viable early on. Defeating the 3 drakes variation of this boss adds many new pieces of loot to the table, a mount, as well as titles. Next, it's time for the Ulduar part of the video. Let's start with Mimiron, one of the keepers of Ulduar. Found midway through the raid after a tram ride to the colossal Sparkle Imagination, this encounter begins with the keeper busy.
I'll say, I won't count this as like a, I mean, this boss is fine. Most of Ulduar is trash, this boss is cool.
Which will instantly dispatch any melee player too slow.
Especially for the mount.
As you gradually lower his health bar, the next stage and next creation will be revealed. The VX001 Anti-Personnel Assault Cannon, a giant 2-armed machine which has signature abilities like Rocket Strike, which does a solid 5 million damage to anybody unfortunate enough to be caught by it, and spinning up, causing the entire raid to have to get behind the boss fast or be deleted. Next phase has the aerial command unit floating from the central platform. Here the raid splits, with ranged gradually damaging down the boss whilst being careful on threat, and melee dealing with bots on the ground. These bots will drop magnetic cores needed to ground the aerial unit.
This boss was cool because there's just so much to it.
And once you've dealt with that, the final phase of the encounter begins, as all 3 creations are bolted together to make Voltron, a mega boss that contains some of the toughest mechanics from each phase. So that's already a lot to deal with, and that is the normal mode. You see the big red button in the back over there?
Hard mode!
Press that and see what happens.
Did you see the sign that said "Do not push this button"?
You've just activated one of Ulduar's hard.
I haven't heard that voice line in forever.
At that, Firefighter puts an enrage of 10 minutes on the encounter and adds new mechanics, buffs all units' health, and most notably has fire constantly spawning throughout the encounter, adding a whole new level of difficulty to it. Next up is an old god, and how could he not make this list? After having driven all the other Titan Keepers to madness, and us having to set that right, it's clear no prison could hold the monster known as Yogg-Saron. The encounter can be accessed right at the...
I think I don't like it because it's just the way this dumb boss looks. I think that's why. So we got the tier 7. So tier 7 bosses. We got the KT was basically number 1. Sartharian at number 2. Mimiron at number 3. And now we got Yogg. For right now, the KT boss, I'll give it a 8 out of 10. Sartharian, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Mimiron, I would give it an 8 out of 10. And then right now with Yogg, I'm giving it a 5.
The instant, starting off with summoning the boss himself.
I don't like this fight. This is so boring.
With Yogg-Saron emerging, the real encounter begins. After a short period of time, portals to the mind's eye materialize. Entering shows you several visions, including the forging of the Dragon Soul and the assassination of King Lane. Dispelling the illusions, you expose the brain of Yogg-Saron. And once the brain team has done enough damage, you'll enter the final phase. This is the DPS race portion of the boss, where Immortal Guardians regularly
look at this thing, bro.
As their name suggests, are, immortal, unless they get hit by a certain mechanic, that is. Also during this phase, Yogg-Saron attempts to rapidly deteriorate the sanity of the raid. That's another mechanic special to this boss, actually. Sanity. Several mechanics will make you lose it, and a few gain it. And if it ever depletes entirely, you become insane and must be dealt with quickly. There is also a lot of customization players have access to through the Titan Keepers, which you have already saved. Each of Mimiron, Thorin, Freya, and Hodir can assist you in the encounter with incredibly helpful effects like Freya's Sanity Well, which restores sanity to the player, or Thorin's Titanic Storm, which is the only way to permanently defeat Immortal Guardians. Attempting Yogg-Saron with no aid from the Keepers increases the difficulty of the encounter significantly. The achievement for defeating him under these conditions is called Alone in the Darkness, and adds bonus loot, titles, and of course Mimiron's head for the loot table. An honourable mention here to Algalon the Observer as well. This is a hard mode only boss that can be accessed after having cleared many of the other hard mode encounters in the raid. The kicker here is that this boss has a timer for how long players have before he will despawn for the remainder of the reset, and that's only 1 hour. Oh, and lore-wise, he's sending a message to essentially destroy the entire world, so no pressure. This visually impressive encounter has you quite literally fighting off space, featuring constellations, black holes, and collapsing stars.
I think I would give this fight the biggest thumbs up right now.
This one will be a little bit
give it a 9
to see, as he is hard mode only. Moving on from Ulduar though to Trial of the Crusader. There are
guys
encounters here too, such as the faction champion,
yes,
and a brawly PvE PvP crossover.
Love it.
Your faction take on the opposing one to prove your strength. And who could forget the opening voice line?
I fucking love this because there's no trash. It is our Lord of the Burning Legion.
But the one to highlight
Fuck
here
this.
is a new Barak.
Nah, go away.
The second time you'll be fighting this boss during this expansion.
I don't like it.
The first time being an end boss of the dungeon, Ajorn Rube, of course. This time around he is a lot more challenging.
I don't
One of
like
his
it.
phases has him chase down players into the ground, aiming to impale them, all of the while the raid is dealing with ads and shooting down frost orbs to create safe permafrost zones on the ground. During the final phase, he unleashes a leeching swarm, which on heroic difficulty drains 30% of players' current health every single second, meaning your entire raid's health bars are looking scarily low all of the time. And on top of there being normal or heroic for Trial of the Crusader,
I love this
there are
raid.
also achievements for defeating bosses with no wipes and even no death in the raid at all, both of which add various rewards such as titles, mounts, and of course
one of my most favorite raids of all time.
Finally, we get to Ice Crown Citadel.
Of
and if
course.
there was one fight
Bone
which
Storm!
during this expansion, it has to be the guy on the front of the game box, Arthas Menethil, the Lich.
How do you not throw in the boat
Pinnacle
or
of the
Boner
Frozen
Storm?
Throne, after having battled through the enormous Ice Crown
Really?
Citadel, this fight is the culmination of the entire expansion. The fight starts off instantly with several deadly mechanics that must be managed correctly. such as Necrotic Plague, applying a huge damage over time effect to a target, as well as Infest, meaning that healers have to be super on the ball, keeping the raid topped off. Phase 2 sees the iconic Defile ability enter the encounter. Think of it as like a Mega Death and Decay, which expands each time it deals damage and can easily cover near the entire platform if handled incorrectly. In Phase 3, the Lich King attempts to harvest the raid's souls and teleports them inside of Frostmourne itself, where they have to assist King Tyrannus in defeating a Soul Warden before they are returned back to the encounter. At 10%, the big twist of the fight happens as Arthas casts Fury of Frostmourne, instantly killing every single member of the raid and preparing to resurrect, in his words, the greatest fighting force Azeroth has ever seen. That is until Tyrion calls on the light and finally breaks free from his icy tomb, and players are able to once and for all put an end to Arthas's reign. There are varying levels of difficulty on this fight too, beyond just normal and heroic. A buff will be applied eventually, allowing players to perform up to 30% better in their combat role, which makes seeing this final battle of Icecrown Citadel very achievable. And those are some of my picks from the most memorable bosses throughout Wrath of the Lich King. There are so many more that are great and are worth talking about too, so do let us know which encounters you're looking forward to doing again, or maybe for the first time ever. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in Northrend.
Stay tuned for some more Wotlk content. Please subscribe and follow, and catch you all then. Peace.